talking to different trans ladies who have come out and gone full time, okay, who have gone full time, if there's one place where there has been drama and a lot of blowback after coming out and difficulty and so forth, it is at work. Okay, that there may be local laws in place and policies in an organization about how people need to be treated and everything when they're transgender or queer or whatever. But still, a lot of us suffer at work. Okay, there are studies that show that most transgender people who are full-time have reported, that they're afraid to make certain career moves for how that might affect them, financially. Most transgender people have reported that they do feel that being transgender has negatively impacted their income and their career and so forth. So if there was one big area where coming out can really affect you, it is at work. And I've talked to a lot of girls that's what happened to them. Okay. Now, personally, I'm self-employed, but I have talked to a lot of girls. So here's some advice I have about that. Just two small pieces of advice if you're thinking about coming out at work. First, let me say this, actually. Coming out at work is different than coming out to your brother, your sister, your parents, whoever, because, you don't talk to your parents. You don't see them every day. You don't spend all day with them every day. Okay, your career is not going to suffer. You can talk to them, and if they're assholes, you can go home. And it's not so much with your job. So, with your job, if you're thinking about coming out at work, you know what, ladies, first thing, I really think you need to work out some kind of an exit plan. Not that you're going to quit for sure, but you have to know, if I come out at work and it goes badly, how am I going to repivot? Where am I going to apply to? Where am I going to go? Because you don't want to feel stuck in a really ugly situation. Okay, where you're being treated bad, but legally you're still being treated good, and you're miserable and you hate it, and you're stuck there all day. You can't just quit your job. You want to have some kind of an exit plan in place in case things don't go well. Because number two, you know what, honestly, I think that a lot of times you kind of know how it's going to go at work. Not always, but sometimes you have a pretty good idea. And so sometimes, you know what, it's best just to get a fresh start. I mean, yeah, you could just come out and see what happens, but you know what? You don't always owe everybody you've ever met calling them up and coming out to them. Don't run from it. But, sometimes if things are bad enough, if it's not that great of an environment anyway, if that job isn't really worth holding on to anyway, you know what, I would recommend a fresh start instead. I used to work with this guy. It's kind of a funny story. And he was kind of this big, I wouldn't say muscular, but kind of a big, stocky, bald-headed guy. Like Mr. Clean kind of a guy. And I found out it was a sales organization that I ran into somebody when I was out in the field who used to work for the company that he used to work for before he worked with us. And it turned out he used to wear a toupee. And you know what? That was the first thing that guy asked about was, does he still wear the rug? Okay. And I was like, no, he doesn't. He's bald. You know what? I think he wanted to stop wearing the toupee. And you can't just be trying to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. This isn't a toupee to people. Okay. And then the next day you're showing up like fully bald. That's just kind of a little bit embarrassing. It's too much. And so, honestly, he found another job. He found another job. And when he started at the new job, he ditched the toupee. None of us had ever seen him in one. And there's nothing weird about being bald. Shaving your head and whatever. And so I'd recommend that. I will say this, that showing up to places where the only way that they've ever seen me is as a woman, honestly, is a little bit easier than now I'm starting to show up as a woman to people who knew me as a man for kind of a long time. That's my experience. That when I've gone out into real life situations, people only know me as a woman. I don't know. They kind of tend to view me, they kind of tend to be more supportive and see me as a lot less crazy than the people who knew me before. Okay? Anyway, sisters, just some friendly advice.